Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful cosmos flower. It's a really cool filler flower and it's also super easy to make. So let's get started. So I'm going to start by making the centers, and I'm just going to spool some black thread around my two fingers about 50 times, and I'm keeping a little space in between my two fingers so I'm not just binding my fingers together. I can actually get the thread off when I'm done. Okay, so you want to grab a 26 or 28 gauge wire. I've got a 28, and you just want to half that wire and slip it in between your two fingers, and we're just going to hook that together and secure that thread. You're going to do the second half on the other side of the thread and just cut the thread in half. So you have two centers. Next, we just want to tape these centers up. So you're going to grab some white florist tape and cut it into half width. Just give it a bit of a tug to activate the glue. Now my wires were a little thin, so I just want to strengthen that center a bit. So I'm just adding another 28 gauge wire, and now I'm taping the two together, and I'm taking the tape up the thread and just leaving about a centimeter of thread exposed, and then taping the wire all the way down to the end. I'm doing the same with the other end. I'm just adding a second wire, and I'm taping the wires together and taking my tape all the way up to the thread, leaving a centimeter exposed. Then just take your florist tape all the way down the wire again. Next, I just cleaned up the centers a bit, and I'm just rounding out the outside ends of the center. Once your centers are cleaned up, we are going to add a bit of pollen to the ends of the thread. I've got some sanding sugar, and I just added a little bit of yellow, and I've got some edible glue. Just dip your center in your edible glue and then dip it in your pollen, set it aside to dry. Next up, we're going to do our petals. I've got some homemade petal paste here. You can use store-bought ones, you can make your own, it's entirely up to you. Either one will work. And I'm just rolling my paste out nice and thin. And I'm going to cut out 8 petals with this little Cosmos cutter here. I'm using the smaller cutter in the set. And I'm punching out a few petals, and I'm putting it in a petal shield just to keep it nice and conditioned so it doesn't dry out while I'm busy working on them. Now I'm using a cell pen to thin out the top edges of the petal. I am thinning and lengthening the petal at the same time. Only do this to the top edge of the petal. You want to keep the thickness at the base. That's where we will be attaching our wires. Okay, now it's time to attach our 28 gauge wires to our petals. I'm just grabbing a couple of wires and I'm cutting it in half and then cutting it in half again. So you need each wire to be quartered. The vein I'm using as part of the set, the Cosmos set, I will link it in the description below. Now grab a small amount of fresh paste and we are going to twiddle this paste onto the wire. Grab one of our petals and just stick the wire onto the back of the petal. Make sure it's secure. Place it into your veiner and we're going to give it a firm press. Just press down quite firmly to make sure that that twiddle is attached to your petal. And as you can see, it's a quick and easy way to get your wire onto your petal. Just with a medium ball tool, thin the edge. And with the broader end of a Dresden tool, just drag it down the one side of the petal, flip it, and drag it down the other end. Okay, set your petal aside to dry, and we're going to repeat this process with all 8 petals. Next up, we're just going to add a little bit of dusting to our petals before we tape it all together. I've got a little bit of moss green and I am just toning it down a little bit with some cornstarch. And I'm only going to dust the base of the petal on both sides. Okay, it's now time to assemble our flower. Grab one of your centers. I'm going to use half width tape to tape it all together. Remember to give your tape a good tug to activate that glue. Now to attach my petals, I'm just going to give the wire a bit of a bend, just a slight angle right at the base of the petal. I'm attaching my tape to my center and just guiding it up to the base of where the thread starts, and then I'm going to place the base of my petal up against my center and do a full rotation with my tape before I add my second petal. add the next 2 petals in between your first 2 and make sure it's nice and secure. Your next row of petals you're going to add in between your first row, so just fill those gaps. And then take your tape all the way down your stem. And then lastly, I'm just going to add a little bit of this moss dusting color onto the stem of the flower, just to finish it up. And there you have it, a beautiful cosmos flower, and you're able to make this in any color you want. I just absolutely love it.